What if I told you the love of your life could disappear in a moment, and you'd never even see it coming? No one thinks about the worst day of their life until it happens. For me, that day began like any other. My cat, Oliver, was curled up next to me, his soft purrs filling the room. He was my comfort, my companion, my family. But that morning, something was different. He didn't jump up to greet me. He didn't chase the morning sunbeams like he always did. I didn't know it then, but that was the last time I'd ever see him healthy. The next few weeks were a blur of vet appointments, medications, and sleepless nights. I couldn't bear to see him suffer, but I also couldn't imagine a life without him. Every time he looked at me with those big, trusting eyes, I felt the weight of my decision pressed down on me. Some days, he seemed like his old self, swatting at toys or curling up in my lap. And for a few precious moments, I'd let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, he could beat this. But then, reality would hit. He'd go days without eating, his once sleek fur becoming matted and dull. He'd hide under the bed, avoiding me, as if he knew what was coming. One night, I sat beside him, stroking his fur as he lay on my bed. Tears streamed down my face, landing on his soft coat. I didn't know if I was crying for him, or for me, or for the life we'd had before all of this. He looked up at me, and in his eyes, I saw something I wasn't ready for. He was tired. He was telling me it was okay to let go, but I wasn't ready to hear it. That night, I held him close, listening to his faint purring, afraid to close my eyes because I knew that when I woke up, he might be gone. Oliver had always been full of life. From the day I adopted him, he was the kind of cat who could light up a room just by being in it. He was playful, curious, always a little mischievous. You never think something so full of life could just break, but it did. That day, Oliver seemed off. I thought maybe he was tired, or maybe he'd eaten something weird. It wasn't until he stopped eating altogether that I realized something was terribly wrong. I rushed him to the vet, expecting to hear it was just a stomach bug. I wasn't ready for what they told me. Cancer. That word hit me like a punch to the gut. My heart sank as I tried to process it. How could my healthy, happy little guy have cancer? He was just 5 years old. It didn't make sense. None of it made sense. They gave me options, none of them good. Surgery, chemotherapy, but even with all that, there was no guarantee. And then, the moment came. The moment I had been dreading. I woke up to silence. No purring. No soft nudge of his nose against my cheek. I knew, even before I looked, that he was gone. My heart shattered. I had lost him. My best friend, my companion, the little soul who had been with me through everything. He was gone, and there was nothing I could do to bring him back. I held him, his lifeless body still warm, and I cried like I had never cried before. It felt like my heart had been ripped out of my chest. The house felt empty. I felt empty. And for days I couldn't do anything. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The quiet in the house was unbearable. Every room held a memory of him, his favorite spot by the window, the corner of the couch where he'd curl up, the scratch marks on the doorframe. I had never realized how much of my life revolved around him until he was gone. Losing Oliver broke me in ways I didn't think were possible. But in the midst of my grief, I found something I didn't expect. I found gratitude. I realized that, for 5 years, I had been lucky enough to share my life with a creature who loved me unconditionally. He made my bad days bearable, my good days even better, and gave me a love I didn't know I needed. Even in death, Oliver taught me something I'll carry with me forever. The beauty of letting go. It's the hardest thing we'll ever do, but sometimes the greatest act of love is knowing when to say goodbye. If you've ever loved and lost a pet, you know the pain I'm talking about. Share your story in the comments below, and if you want to see more heartwarming and sometimes heartbreaking stories like this one, hit that subscribe button and join our community. Let's keep these beautiful memories alive together.